Welcome. My name's Cathy Smith, Kaizen Promotion Office Lead, and I think most of our audience are very familiar with Kaizen meaning continuous improvement, but I think we've still got one or two of our colleagues across the Trust not yet familiar with Kaizen Promotion Office, which is a small group of us supporting our 5,000 plus staff in introducing improvement into their daily work, so that we all move towards doing our work and improving our work, and we can provide that support through teaching, through workshops, or by coming out and working alongside individuals. And we now have over 2,500 of our staff, 500 using and demonstrating the use of the tools on a regular basis. So some really exciting work going on, and you're going to hear about lots more today, because you'll be all too well aware that we had a fair amount of snow last week, and during last week we had a lot of improvement work happening, but we couldn't report it out on the Friday. So it's great to see colleagues from Telford here as well to hear about that work that happened last week as well as this week. And I'd like to say welcome as well to some of our guests today. Dr. Jacqueline McKenna from NHSI, who's a professional lead nurse within NHSI, and our guests from Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt as well, who are coming to look at the improvement work here. So welcome to you all. It's a full agenda, so I don't want to say any more. I want to hand straight over to you and the team to hear about this week's work.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you for attending today's report out for the Discharge Value Stream Rapid Process Improvement Week. I'm Louise Brennan, I'm a Kaizen Promotion Office Specialist and proud to be the workshop lead for this RPIW. The team this week are focused on exploring the role of criteria-led discharge for patients on Ward 32. The team assembled this week to address the scope include ward sister, matron, physiotherapist, operational manager, junior doctor and a clinical programme lead. Lean concepts of 5S, mistake proofing, level production and setup reduction have been used to address the improving the flow and remove wastes and defects that occur throughout the process. I'll now hand over to the team for them to tell you their story.
Good afternoon, my name is Nick Holding. I'm the Senior Specialist in the Kaizen Promotion Office, and I've also been Team Lead for this RPIW. The team this week have worked towards a set of key metrics, focusing on designing and testing opportunities to use criteria-led discharge for some of our patients. Our sponsor set the team challenging targets against the metrics to focus on during the week and to achieve within 90 days. These metrics are for staff, walking to collect prescription books from AMU was 440 steps, and the target was to reduce this to 60 steps. The lead time for our patients from discharge information is gathered to when they actually leave the ward is 215 minutes, and the target was to reduce this to 90 minutes. A further lead time metric was from when the patient is told they're going home to when they leave the ward. The baseline for this was 130 minutes, with a target reduced to 60. Our initial observations highlight a number of defects in the process. 20% of patients missed their booked transport slots. 100% of times a patient needs to walk to AMU to collect at FP10, and 80% of patients were not discharged on 32 short stay before 12 midday. All defect metrics have a 0% compliance target. 5S levels for the patient bed space were level 1, with a target to improve to level 4. We calculate tact time by taking the time available and dividing by the demand. Our tact time was 288 minutes, which is the pace we should work to. Our current state value stream map shows the journey of our patient and the information flow to enable a timely discharge. This is from when the information is gathered to when the patient leaves the ward. The Kaizen bursts, which are opportunities for improvement, are shown here in the clouds. These show the waste in the process, and the numbers in between the cycle boxes shows the delays and waits. The overall lead time for this value stream was 215 minutes, of which only 7% was value adding. The process flow chart shows the information flow, the steps and the inputs. The pink post-its show the wastes in the process.
Hi, I'm Steph Young. I'm a matron working in MSK. Discharge processes usually rely on a senior medical review to instigate a discharge plan, often once the patient is deemed medically fit. A standard process was agreed for medical criteria for discharge to be set as part of the patient's admission process in AMU. A further plan for criteria to be set when patients are likely to be discharged in the next 24 to 48 hours. By identifying patients as suitable for discharge, the discharge process would commence, reducing overall lead time for leaving hospital. Patients identified as suitable for the process would have criteria used for discharge planning. Those patients could then be discharged without waiting for a senior medical review. Patients from AMU on a criteria-led discharge would be streamed to 32 short stay and then be discharged. During this rapid process improvement week, 10 patients on AMU had a medical criteria for discharge set. 9 patients identified during an AMU board round and 1 patient on 32 short stay ward round. 1 patient has been discharged home on a criteria-led discharge. Over the next 30 days, we aim to test how criteria-led discharge will impact on early morning flow on ward 32 short stay.
Hi, my name's Emily. I'm an F1 doctor at the Trust. So one of the problems is that discharge criteria is often not clear, explicit, or in a format comprehensive to all MDT, multidisciplinary team, members, often resulting in the reliance of a doctor to identify when a patient is medically fit. Medical criteria for discharge was also in a separate location to therapy goals, generating time waste for team members while searching and trying to gain clarification. So we wanted to implement setup reduction through the generation of a criteria-led discharge form, easily recognisable and easily located, containing medical and therapy goals for discharge, so that all the MDT are aware of the patient requirements for home. So we generated a criteria-led discharge form using the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, PDSA. We reviewed medical and therapy notes, spoke to patients about their discharge experience, produced multiple versions of the criteria-led discharge forms, gained feedback from healthcare professionals, reviewed content and trialled forms in AMU and Ward 32. So the result was this form, where we can identify the criteria needed for patients to be put onto this pathway to ensure safe use of the criteria-led discharge form. We made space for a decision whether the patient has been identified suitable for a nurse or therapy-led discharge or whether they still need further doctor reviews. There's space for doctors and therapists to clearly document their discharge goals for the patient. And we safety netted the process by ensuring that patients go home with clear follow-up plans in place and making clear on the form whether these plans have been organised prior to discharge or are still outstanding.
Hello, my name is Lisa. I'm a Therapy Quality Improvement Lead. After creating the criteria-led discharge form, we needed to ensure that both staff and patients were aware of the process. It was vital that staff used a standard way of working and that patients felt involved in their discharge decision. To solve this problem, we decided to create some guidance for staff and information for patients. After speaking with staff, then using a PDSA cycle approach, we produced a standard process description and written guidance for staff. This was then made available on the ward. After speaking with patients, we produced an information leaflet. Patient feedback on this leaflet and the process itself was very positive. Leaflets have been made available on the ward using a Kanban, which is a visual action card. The end result is clear guidance for both patients and staff on criteria-led discharge.
Hello, my name is Andy. I'm an operational manager in unscheduled care. An issue which was highlighted was the way internal speciality reviews were requested and how much time it takes to do referral. Currently, across all the different specialities, there are different ways of referring, for example, by the telephone or by a paper referral. We decided to pick a speciality which is referred the most, respiratory. On average, they do 2 respiratory referrals a day, as well as all the other specialty reviews that need requesting. The current process for a doctor on Ward 32 to write a paper referral and walk it down to the Respiratory Medical Secretary office, which is near the Hummingbird Centre. This is then picked up by the respiratory consultant to review. To resolve this issue, we set up an electronic referral, which we would hope minimise the time the doctor is away from the ward. We went away and converted the current paper referral to an online document. We then liaised with IT to create a universal email address so that all the respiratory medical secretaries could have access to, ready to receive the referrals. The medical secretaries would then print the referral ready for the respiratory consultant to review. After implementing this, the time observation form showed we managed for each referral to reduce the footfall for the doctor from nearly 700 steps and 7 minutes away from the ward down to 0 steps and no time spent away from the ward. This allows the doctor to be present on the ward, assisting staff and helping patients.
Hello, my name is Amy and I am the sister on Ward 32 short stay. On the ward we found that the bays were not standardised and no visual controls were in place related to patients' estimated date of discharge. There was also nothing to highlight when a doctor or pharmacist had taken the drugs card out of the notes trolley, which meant the nurses were then unable to find the drug card and wasted time looking for them. The ward also lacked drip stands, which is a fundamental piece of equipment for a short stay medical ward. It meant that staff had to use paper clips on lamps to hang up IV medication, which is both poor practice and very unsafe for the patient. We introduced andons to the patient lockers in the form of coloured houses, which correlated with the PSAG board, which highlighted the EDD and if the patient had a criteria-led discharge form. We created another visual andon to put in the notes trolleys to help the nurses reduce time waste looking for drug cards. With regards to drip stands, we are trying to locate ours that may have been taken to other wards, and we have had approval to get some more for the ward to improve patient safety and practice. We asked patients and relatives about our housing system on their lockers. It highlighted that patients felt more informed about their EDD and felt they could plan more towards their discharge date, making it easier for them. The pharmacists and doctors used our drug card flagging system to ensure the nurses knew where the drug cards had been taken to and by who. We've also added clipboards to the end of patients' bed, ensuring that the relevant documents are all standardised and in one area. The results highlighted that using andons on patient lockers and standardising the bay enhanced patient family understanding of the discharge process. The adding of the clipboard to the end of the beds also helped doctors and nurses across access information in a timely way. The use of the drug card flagging system has also helped to reduce the amount of time wasted by staff.
Hi, my name is Rachel Brown and I'm the Clinical Programme Lead for Safer and Red to Green. Due to staffing problems within the ward, there was a lack of a consistent and coordinated approach to facilitate the patient journey and discharge. This has led to a quality defect in terms of flow. To help address this, we reallocated the resource of a patient journey facilitator to the area to improve the flow and the overall lead time. During this week, we tested out the role. Holly participated in the board round and ward round, updated the ward round book, and provided a crucial role in being the link between all members of the MDT. This also meant a more effective channel for communication. Holly liaised with patients and with families, keeping them updated with progress and plans for going home. In terms of results, previously 13% of patients were going home before midday. This week, 50% of all our patients have gone home before midday. This has not only resulted in improved flow, but has also improved the patient journey.
So through the work this week, we've achieved so much. The future state value stream map shows that many of the Kaizen bursts have been eliminated and one of the cycle boxes has been removed. Value adding percentage for our patients has improved by the removal of the weights in between cycle boxes. The future state process flowchart shows most of the pink post-its have been removed.
So we've had a brilliant week with this amazing team who've grasped the opportunity and realised the potential in this work. It's been a real pleasure to work with such a dedicated group of people, and I'm so pleased to be able to share with you the results of their work. So our target progress report shows that when FP10s are introduced, the ward will no longer be walking 440 steps to collect them, just 57 steps to the treatment room, an 87% reduction. The overall lead time for information gathering to patient leaving has reduced by 58%, and the sub-lead time of decision to discharge to leaving the ward has reduced by 92%. Our quality metrics show that only 14% of patients miss their transport slot. The availability of FP10s on Ward 32 will be 100% once the new order has been agreed, and 50% of patients left the ward before 12 midday. The work on the patient bed space and Bay 4 has improved 5S score from level 1 to level 2. As part of this work, we've introduced 2 implementation metrics to be seen through the next 30, 60 and 90 days. We will measure the number of criteria discharge forms in use and number of pre-midday discharges.
So this week's been amazing. The team has come up with some great ideas resulting in a criteria-led discharge form which one patient has been discharged on. I'd just like to thank the team for efforts and contributions through the week. I want to recognise the support of my team on Ward 32 short stay, the away team on the RPIW and all those who've helped this week. The work continues beyond this. My role as process owner is to help embed the changes, and through the newspaper I will see through the outstanding actions. I will report a number of recommendations to the value stream sponsor team, and I will remeasure our metrics at 30, 60 and 90 days, and I look forward to sharing these with you in the future.
This week for me has reinforced the importance of going to the Gemba to go see and ask why. On Monday I spent some time on the Gemba and observed the flow on Ward 32. What this highlighted to me is that often the abnormal can become the normal. I watched 2 members of staff constantly walk around an observation machine and heard how the team have been using paper clips to hang up IV medications to ensure that patients receive their treatment on time. It's important that we respectfully challenge what we see and understand the true root cause. The away team this week has worked really hard and remained patient-focused. They have challenged the current state and explored doing things that sometimes thought impossible. The home team have been a great support this week and have been receptive to trying something new. The advisory team has been called upon many times this week and has been able to support the team move their ideas into practice. I'd also like to thank Nick for being a solid team leader as usual, for effortlessly sharing your vast knowledge of lean with the team, and I know that this will be invaluable in your new role with other London hospital trusts. Thank you to our sponsors Kevin Erdley and Gemma MacGyver for setting the targets for the RPIW, which has kept the team driven to create an efficient process. Thank you.
Well, what an amazing week, and this is really exciting for us because this is our first RPIW since the respiratory value stream came into unscheduled care, and this team have definitely not disappointed. In fact, you've set the standard going forward. I think this week has really shown us that when we get the right people, we give them the time and the tools, what incredible success can really be achieved. This team in particular, I think, are an incredible, talented group of individuals, because I think at the start of the week, when we looked at what does criteria-led discharge mean, they completely embraced the concept. You pushed all boundaries, you were not going to let any barriers stand in your way, and you've included every single aspect of the MDT in all of your planning, which I think is clear how you've ended up with the results that you have. At the beginning of the week, myself and Dr. Erdley set some really ambitious targets for you. And I think consistently we said at the beginning that we were worried that some of those targets would be a little bit hard for the team to deliver. But this group, right from the start, were really committed to what would our patients want. And I think you've embraced that and quite clearly exceeded it. So huge well done. I think we have to be really honest. When we had our planning meetings, we were all, myself and Dr. Erdley and Carol were all a little bit concerned about this RPIW. We've had a really tough time this winter. We've all worked really, really hard, and I think our key was we cannot put any more work on any of our wards, and especially Ward 32. We need to really look after them in this process. Ward 32 have more than supported this. I think this has really given the boost for morale that I think we all really, really needed, and they've all really, really got behind us. So although the away team have been brilliant, I know that the success could not have happened without the home team. And I think for us to now have 10 patients in this hospital with criteria-led discharge is huge, and will absolutely support us with our improvements going forward on all of our wards. So the things you've done won't just be for Ward 32, we'll be able to feel that throughout the whole hospital, which is really, really positive. And to have 50% of patients discharging before midday will hugely help A&E and AMU, and I know that they're exceptionally grateful already this week, so the feedback from all of our members has been how we can already feel the difference and feel the change. I think the best thing about this week, without any shadow of a doubt, is the power of the methodology. So when we started this process, and I went to Dr. Erdley and said, please can you help us sponsor? He was really keen, but like all of us, he has an enormous amount of work, and I think we were a little bit worried about his time and the commitment he could give to it. So the deal we made was, I'll brief you, come to the start, set out the standards, and then going forward what we'll do is I'll do the work, it'll be fine. I think the biggest challenge we've had this week is he's broken all the sponsor rules, because we cannot get him out of the team, because every time I phone him to ask him a query, he's back on the RPIW and he's back trying to do stuff. And I think I can see that with the home team, with Dr. Erdley, and with all of you. It's just the power of the methodology. As soon as you kind of feel and see how this can work, we don't want it to stop, do we? So I think that's brilliant. I think the one thing I would say, definitely my commitment as sponsor, and certainly Dr. Erdley's and Carol's as exec sponsor, is that we need to now keep these improvements going. I think sometimes it's a little bit hard, so we'll support Amy and Pab when the week is over to keep that momentum, and I know that you've got quite a big newspaper, so we'll definitely help to keep that going, because as I've promised Nick this week, we will not stop now. This has been the start of something really, really exciting. I know that Helen Jenkinson and Deirdre are leading on criteria-led discharge, and hopefully this will really start now for us to build on that further and keep the momentum going. So massive well done, and thank you very, very much.
Okay, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Richard Stevens, Kaiser Promotion Office Specialist, and I was the workshop lead for the RPIW that took place at Wrekin MLU last week, and that's the second RPIW in the patient safety value stream. The boundaries for this RPIW is from when an incident occurs on the MLU until the incident has been reported via the Datex online system, then reviewed by the ward manager. We had a great away team, including Cherie, who's one of our service users, and we were well supported by the home team and wider women's and children and emergency department throughout the week. Despite the weather conditions last week, hence the reason for reporting out now, the team worked extremely hard to improve the process. Sadly, they're unable to be here in person, although I have noticed that Lucy, our process owner, is in Telford watching on, which is great, and I've noticed with Anna Dryzek, who's our Datex administrator, who did an awful lot of work last week, is with us today to share this. So you'll see most of the report out via video, which we created last week as part of their home team report out.
Good afternoon, my name is Mary Claire Wigley and I'm a KPO specialist and had the pleasure of being team lead for this RPIW. The target progress report for this RPIW details 6 metrics. The baseline metrics are from direct observation with the target set by our sponsor. The lead time from when an incident occurs to when it's reviewed in the Datex was 6 days. The target set by Laura, our sponsor, was 2 days. The sub-lead time of when a Datex form was started to when it's completed was 8 minutes, and the target set was 5 minutes. 3 quality defects were identified using experience-based design questionnaires with the Wrekin MLU staff. They were asked, how do you feel about reporting an incident? 60% of them gave a neutral or negative response. How do you feel about using the Datex form itself? 70% gave a neutral or negative response. How do you feel about your knowledge regarding what to report as an incident? 50% gave a neutral or negative response. The target set by our sponsor for all of these quality metrics was 0%. Our last metric was measured using the 5S tool, which was looking at the Datex form itself. The baseline was level 1 with a target of level 4. The TAC time or pace of the work for new patient incidents on the Wrekin MLU was 720 minutes. The boundaries for this value stream were from when an incident is identified until an incident is saved in review in the Datex system by the local manager. The cycle boxes on the value stream show what happens at each step in the process and who's involved. It shows how long each step takes and the weights between each step. The Kaizen bursts demonstrate defects and wastes in the process, and the current value added time for the patient was 1%. The process flow chart shows the waste on the pink post-its, and the red and yellow wool shows the flow as inappropriately timed and with defects. I will now hand you over to the team via video link to tell you how about the work they did there last week.
Hi, I'm Lucy Murcott and I'm here as the Acting Ward Manager for Wrekin MLU and the process owner. So first, what was the problem? From the process, the flowcharts, it was identified that there was a lead time of 5 days to review a Datex from the point of submission. So what was the idea to solve this problem? The implementation of a safety huddle was considered as a tool to discuss newly submitted Datexes and disseminate immediate learning and actions. So what did we test? We devised and we reviewed and reworked the existing safety huddle model that was in use on the antenatal and postnatal wards. We reviewed the timings of the huddle, the info discussed at the huddle, and produced our own area-specific huddle, which also included a patient information sheet so the patients were aware of what format the huddle took and when it was. So what were the results? We had our inaugural huddle yesterday, and it's been really well received, with some feedback that we have utilised to change timings and some of the processes that we do within the huddle. We reduced the lead time from reviewing a Datex from 5 days down to 12 hours. For this piece of work, we do have to specifically thank Sam Carling, who was my co-group member on this piece of work, and she unfortunately can't be here today, and the antenatal ward manager Claire Murgatroyd, who worked really closely with us with formulating the huddle. The second problem that me and Sam looked at was the lack of available IT within the Gemba, leading to a frustration when trying to complete a datex in a timely manner. So what was the idea to solve this problem? From reviewing the ideas forms that were generated, an iPad was suggested as one of the ways to utilise additional IT. We explored the possibility of utilising the ward iPad within the Gemba to review datexes. So what did we test? We created a wallet with the following in it. This was a notebook to sign the iPad out and in, and including the password, the iPad itself, a user step-by-step guide to complete the datex on the iPad, and utilising the datex aid memoir if necessary. So what were the results? We had great feedback when we trialled it with the staff within the Gemba. All staff were able to get the wallet, use the wallet, and follow the user guide and find it really useful, and they actually really welcomed the utilisation of the iPad so they could take it to where the incident was or where the notes were, rather than having to move everything to that area. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Doug Smith. I'm the Finance Manager for Women and Children's and Support Services, and I was asked to join the RPIW as a fresh pair of eyes. I've got to say it's been a really enjoyable week, learning all about datexes and really seeing how they're used, and going out to the Gemba, the MLU, also going to the consultant unit and getting views from there as well. So I've worked closely with Anna, and between us, we were tasked with looking at how we can make it easier and quicker to complete the datex form. So coming into this, it was typically taking around 8 minutes to complete the datex form. So the way we approached that was to go to the Gemba, go and use the experience of some of you in this room, using the experience of some of the team to actually understand why it was taking the time it was taking. And the kind of feedback we were getting is that too many fields, people don't necessarily know what to put where in the form, it's not very intuitive. So we used one of the tools within the KPO space, which is the 5 S's. And we started off by looking at the first 2 S's that we looked at, and of this was to sort and to simplify. So this was going through all the various inputs that we were asking for within the datex and looking, are they really necessary? And if so, is it really clear what we want from those various fields? And then also how we can simplify the form as well to make it easier for you to use. So I'll hand over to Anna now, who will talk to you about how we've went about doing that.
Hi, my name is Anna Kreisek. I'm a datex administrator. My role was to facilitate and redesign the datex form. Following initial ideas, after brainstorming session with myself and Doug, following 5 strategies, had redesigned the datex form. With ready form, we went to Gemba to test it out. Following feedback, the form was updated and reflected all MLU staff ideas. One of the targets was to simplify the datex form, make it easy and user-friendly to use. New design is much easier and we hope will be user-friendly and will speed up the whole process. Have new self-populating fields. We've changed order in some fields, so the fields you will be using or categories will be at the top, so you don't need to scroll through the form. So it's much easier. We've added little help, so you can, on the form, you can, when you click on the little question mark, it will open a help field, so you can read what that field is all about. This was one I again tested and we received positive feedback from Gemba. Form is now available on the internet and it says it's incident datex form for Written MLU. So you can use it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Becky Lean. I'm a community midwife at the Wrekin MLU, and this week I've been working with Cherie, who is a service user, but unfortunately due to bad weather she's had to go home. So following feedback from staff, we were unsure of when to do a day text, how to do a day text, and how to fill in the different categories and levels of harm. We kind of did a bit of problem solving and thought about doing a step-by-step guide. So we went to antenatal ward, who actually have got their own aid memoir attached to the computers to help them do their day texts. So what we've done is adjusted and changed it to suit the Wrekin MLU and simplify the process for people to be able to use it, and also put little pocket guides with the levels of harm and when to complete a day text as well. We went out into maternity and tested this on people that had never done a day text before, and actually they found that the results were quite positive, and the fact that the staff felt they felt more confident using the guide to help them complete a day text, and they're now attached to all the MLU computers ready to use if you want to. And then we also looked at feedback. Staff were unsure how they received feedback. Once they put a day text in, they tick yes, but never seem to get any feedback. Currently you have to, you get an email saying click on this link and log in, but most people haven't got a login, so they weren't getting the feedback they wanted. So we've just looked at different ways that we could feedback to staff. So one is the safety huddle that my colleague Lucy talked about, where they'll be feeding back about the day texts that you've put in, a one-to-one chat if that's what you wished, a personalised email, or we've also now put on the MLU some paper feedback copies with a Kanban for you to get a more personalised one-to-one feedback at the moment. On the open house and on the MLU, when we've shown them to people, they seem to have quite positive feedback. Obviously that's something that needs trialling over the next 30 days. Thank you very much.
So, through the work this week, we've achieved so much. The future state value stream map shows that the improvements made during this RPIW have eliminated all the Kaizen bursts. The lead time is significantly reduced and value-added time for the patient is improved. The future state process flowchart shows waits and delays in the process have been reduced, and that waste has been removed for each of the process steps. The home team at Wrekin MLU have been a fantastic support this week. They've willingly given feedback on the ideas we've been trialling, as well as continuing their busy roles within the unit. The work continues beyond this week. My role as process owner is to help embed the changes, and through the newspaper I will see through the outstanding actions, which will be reported back to the value stream sponsor team. I will remeasure our metrics at 30, 60 and 90 days, and I look forward to sharing these with you in the future. Thank you.
The OA team last week really took on board the RPIW process and worked hard along with the home team at Wrekin MLU to test the many ideas put forward to improve the process. As Lucy has already mentioned, you can see from the value stream map that all the Kaizen bursts have been addressed, and it's my pleasure to now share with you the results. The rollout of the twice daily safety huddles on MLU has reduced the lead time from when an incident occurs to when it is reviewed in the DATEX system to just 12 hours, a 92% reduction. The sub-lead time of when a DATEX form is started to when it is completed has been reduced to 4 minutes due to the use of the 5S methodology on the DATEX form. The 3 quality metrics looking at the experience of staff have been reduced to 20%. The introduction of the safety huddles, the revised DATEX form and the information developed for staff will continue to be shared with the Wrekin MLU staff, and these metrics will be remeasured at 30, 60 and 90 days. The 5S of the DATEX form has improved from a level 1 to a level 2, which means that the form now only has the necessary information, the flow of information through the form has been simplified, and a sweep can more easily take place to confirm that all fields are completed. We have also introduced 2 implementation metrics which will measure the implementation of the safety huddle for the day and night shifts.
So again, this week that we had last week demonstrated the importance of having the right people available for the week. So having the likes of Anna as the DATEX administrator, along with Sam Carling supporting us, fresh eyes, our service user Cherie in particular, who was very challenging to us throughout the week, very helpful, and the team got an awful lot from her presence. So we really thank her for that. What have we learnt though from last week? Well, again, it's the power and support of the home team. We say it time and again, but it's vitally important to help develop these ideas alongside having the right expertise within the room, within the away team that are actually doing the process. having a service user, again, as I've said previously, invaluable, really helped challenge the team. I'd obviously like to thank Mary Claire, who's the team lead, who guided the team and had to quickly think with the changing weather conditions about keeping us on track, especially when it came to thinking about heading towards report out, although that's more my role to look at, but we wanted to get the work completed as well, best we could, and then concentrate on the report out. Laura, our sponsor, who throughout the week supported us, and also the lead up to the week as we have, and also Lucy, our process owner, Yvonne in a facilitator role, and everybody else that you can see on the slide that we've named individually. And I'd also like to especially mention Ian Roth, who's at the back, hiding, who not only comes to report out to film this, but help me with the videos. I have a tendency to do it upside down for some reason when it comes on, and he helps flip it around and play with the sound a bit, so it's a lot better. I'm now like to just invite Laura, who unfortunately can't be here today, our sponsor, to say a few words, again via video.
Hi, I'm Laura Kavler. I'm the Workforce Business Partner for Women's and Children's, and I acted as the sponsor for this week's RPIW. I'm also a member of the Patient Safety Value Stream, and I'm really, really proud to be part of that group because I'm really committed to creating a workplace that's safe and open for our staff. This is a huge part to play in developing our patient safety work. So I'm really proud of the team and the achievements that they've made over the last week. When we met through the planning set parts of this piece of work, I was worried that the targets we set were far too hard, and the team made quick work to prove to me that they were more than capable of meeting the challenge that was set. They worked really quickly and they gelled as a group very, very quickly in the beginning part of the week to speedily test the ideas that they'd gathered from spending time in Gemba and the MLU and going out to test their ideas and share learning with the A&E department at Telford here as well. So over the week the team have worked really well to achieve simplifying the access that's available for Datex, introduction of Safety Huddle to the MLU, updating and simplifying the forms so that they could redesign the form and introduce self-populating fields, which improves access for our staff. They have worked together to improve access to feedback for our staff who take the time to submit a Datex, and also develop training materials. Lucy's been a fabulous process owner. She's been a joy to work with, and her enthusiasm and her energy has been infectious, and I think that you'll have seen that from the presentation from the away team. So I'm really looking forward now to working with Lucy over the next 30, 60 and 90 days to support her as she captures the real measures of this work. So fab, well done everybody.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wow. So I'm really proud and really privileged to be the exec sponsor of the Patient Safety Value Stream. But actually, I have to give a big shout out to both teams, away teams here today. I mean, how phenomenal. I have to share with you, for the last 2 days, I've been in Liverpool at a very inspirational event, which is an annual event of chief nursing officers from around the country, academics from around the world. And I have to tell you, sorry Jackie, but I have been more inspired here today by the work that you guys have done than I probably have in the last 2 days. And that's not disrespect to the people who are at the conference. That's huge acknowledgement and pride in the work that you're doing. So for me, if we look at the patient safety or PIW this week, there are 4 things that stood out for me. So one is the importance of building on learning. Well done to you guys for building on the learning from on the antenatal ward of the huddle process. Fantastic. 2, the value of small incremental changes in the development of that wallet, which has simplified the process of accessing the iPad so enormously. The value of the 5S, simplification of the Datex form to make it more user-friendly. I mean, how useful will that be to the whole organisation? Just tremendous. And also, just to reiterate the value of the multi-professional team, Doug from the finance department, and how important it is to co-produce our improvements with our service users. Well done. And lastly, really, really important, that we have created a system now that gives feedback to our staff. We know nationally, internationally, that the importance of incident reporting in creating a really positive safety culture. So anything you guys have done to improve the safety culture in SAF will have enormous and sustainable impact for our patients and staff. So well done to you. I'm really, really proud of you.
Hello, I'm Ruth Smith. I'm matron at PRH and process owner of the second Stroke Services Kaizen event. The boundaries are from when stroke patient told they can go home to when they leave Ward 16. The purpose of this Kaizen event was to support the Stroke Kaizen plan. Discussion and planning of the patient's DDD often happens away from the patient. Ward 16 staff were keen to explore how patients can play a more active role in the discharge planning. The team wanted to explore how the information is communicated and how to make information more accessible for our stroke patients. The target progress report details 5 baseline metrics. The lead time for the event boundaries was 6 hours 45 minutes. The sub-lead time for staff to gather all items required to discharge a patient took 60 minutes. 100% of patients said they were not aware of their discharge date or the discharge process steps required to go home. The documentation contained lots of duplication and information was not immediately visible, and the 5S level was at level 1. Many defects and wastes were identified within the process. For example, discharge delayed whilst arranging transport, motion of staff to pharmacy to collect TTOs, duplication of documentation, variation in the use of the PSAG board to highlight discharge patients. The team over 3 days produced over 30 ideas. The discharge paperwork has been simplified and an additional prompt has been added to introduce a conversation earlier in the process about discharge transport. The team explored how to use the PSAG icons to highlight TTOs that need prescribing and added the TTO onto the daily pharmacy order list. Patient information has been co-designed with feedback and input from Ward 16 patients. An information leaflet is being trialled to provide what to expect around discharge and useful signposting information for patients. A visual has been created that shows the steps required for discharge. This can be personalised to each patient's need and is kept at the patient's bedside. There is a section for the patient and family to leave questions and comments about their discharge. The results were during the Kaizen event, the lead time was reduced to 5 hours 55 minutes and the amount of time preparing a discharge reduced to 10 minutes. The revised paperwork 5S level is now at level 2. With the introduction of the patient information and steps to discharge visual meant that when we asked the patients on Ward 16 if they knew about going home and what was required, they gave a positive answer. There are 2 implementation metrics to monitor and PDSA the usage of: the revised documentation and the patient steps to discharge board. As a process owner, I will complete the outstanding newspaper items. With the support of the away team, we will continue to PDSA the improvements and measure the effectiveness. The executive sponsor comments are from Colin Offington, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us today, so he's given those to me to share with you. Being a little more involved in the Kaizen event with the stroke unit team has been a real privilege. Getting into the detail as it affects patients and our multidisciplinary teams has been a useful reminder, if I needed one, of the reason we exist in the health service. That is, to make sure patients are safe and well cared for. It does seem to me that the work we've started on Ward 16 will have application to almost every ward in some format, although I do think the application may need some tweaking to suit those with a higher discharge turnover. So while the outputs have really been designed in that way, the work from the away team could be have quite an immense impact. I was extremely impressed how the team got on with the task in hand with so much energy and enthusiasm. I was equally impressed how well the home team, still busy on the ward, also took time to help us when we appeared on the ward from time to time. This demonstrated real professionalism and dedication to the cause. I want to say thank you to both the away team and the home teams for their support and their welcome to me in their working lives.
I'm Susan Crook-Williams and I'm Discharge Liaison Sister at the Princess Royal Hospital, and I have particular responsibility for Ward 16. So when I was asked if I would sponsor their Kaizen event into the discharge process and what patients and their relatives understood, I was delighted to be involved. I have been immensely impressed by their professionalism. They have actively involved family and friends in this process. How they have come up with the ideas that they have come up with to make it very visual, which is actually important in patients who've had strokes, who sometimes struggle to understand and verbal communication. So quite often, sight communication is easy for them. I look forward to the improvements continuing, and I look forward to continuing to be involved in this process. So a big thank you to the team, special thank to Ruth and to Colin, who have been very supportive, and to Anne also, the ward manager. Thank you.
And our final report out today is from the Kaizen event last week, which looked at the production of a fact-finding assessment, an FFA. And we had a small team pulled together over 3 days at PRH, and we focused our attention on wards 10 and 11, and we got great support from the discharge liaison team as well. So our targets that we were looking at for that event was the lead time was from the submission, from the patient arriving on the ward to the submission of the FFA document to the ICS team to find the package of care. The baseline for that was 18 days. And our target was set by Alex, our sponsor, down to 9 days. Our quality defects, percentage of times an FFA required some rework following submission to the discharge liaison team. 29% of those FFAs required rework, and percentage of staff did not fully understand the FFA process from start to finish was 100%. Both of those targets were 0%. And we used 5S metrics on our FFA documentation, and our baseline was at level 1, and also the storage area where FFA documents are kept on the ward areas, that was also level 1, with both being a target of level 4. So our persona for that was Elaine Minter and Lisa Butler. And we have another video for you. Lisa recorded the video for us on our behalf at Telford, which we're going to play you now, and she'll feedback some of the work that we've done. Press the button, and it should be on the screen.
Hello there, my name's Lisa Butler. I'm the ward manager for Ward 11.
And my name's Nicola Roach, and I work on Ward 11 as a Red to Green tracker.
We both took part in a Kaizen event that began on the 28th of February, but unfortunately we didn't complete because of the awful snow. We are planning though to get together in a couple of weeks to finish off the great work that we started. The work that we were looking at was the completion of the FFA form. For those of you who don't know, the FFA form stands for the Fact Finding Assessment, which is a social services form that we complete to get people the help that they need once they leave hospital. The team that looked into the FFAs comprised of ward managers, Red to Green trackers, therapists, discharge liaison team and the Sath to Home team. Through the work that we're doing, we are hoping to speed up the process of the FFA completion, and we hope that eventually we might actually get the form electronic, which will really help the whole team. We therefore plan that we will meet again in a few weeks' time to carry on the great work that we've done, and then we will be doing the 30, 60, 90-day report out that all Kaizen events do. So hope to hear from you soon. Bye!
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm Sath Home Project Manager in Unscheduled Care. I was delighted to be the sponsor for this Kaizen event because I have quite strong opinions about the FFA. You know who else has strong opinions about the FFA? Literally everyone, which is why this is quite an ambitious task, and I was proud of the team for everything they started, because the FFA itself is such a double-edged sword. There's on one hand it represents discharge to assess, trusted assessments, home first. It's all built into that, and when you're working across sort of 3 local authorities, Telford, Shropshire and Powys, and there's 3 discharge to assess pathways, that's 9 potential discharge options to any complex patient, but it's all boiled down and represented in one form. So it has massive potential, but it also can become a significant bottleneck in the discharge process, and that's what we frequently see. So the external partners can't progress a discharge until we have the FFA filled out that details what the plan is and what the pathway is leaving hospital. So the challenge we've set to the team in cut short because of the snow was to how do you eliminate that bottleneck but keep all the elements of the FFA that's useful and that inform the culture of home first. So what I asked them to do was really focus on what the FFA represents, which is the discharge decision, the pathway decision. And a lot of times when people get caught up in discussions about FFAs, they get embroiled in the document and boxes and what should be on the form and things. But really what the FFA represents is the pathway decision and the ownership of the pathway decision. Who makes the pathway decision? And the ownership of that decision is the crux of it, and it was too big of a task to tackle in 3 days, much less 1.5 with the snow. So my responsibility as sponsor is to take all the work that they've already started and the can of worms that they've opened, and to make sure that conversation continues and that we get to the bottom of ownership of the pathway decision in staff. Thank you.
Hi everyone, for those whom I've not met, my name's Edwin Borman, I'm the Medical Director for SAF. Normally it's Simon Wright, our Chief Executive, who would complete at this stage. But Simon's having discussions with NHS Improvement about how well we're doing. And given that this is the toughest winter that the NHS has had to experience, and that SAF in particular is having a really tough time of it, I anticipate that might be a slightly uncomfortable conversation, both ways. But when you think about how the NHS has been performing in this toughest of all winters, we hear stories of, yes, the headline is today, worst ED delivery ever since measurements began and the target was set. We've heard stories of patients in trolleys and corridors, but we've also heard stories about the great care that colleagues around the country are providing for our patients. We've heard stories about the commitment of colleagues to making sure that despite the fact that this is really tough and people are in tears and sometimes at their wits' end, people will still volunteer to do extra shifts, will come in through the snow, even will get people in Range Rovers and Land Rovers to bring them in through the snow. And the commitment of the NHS to making sure that we provide the best care possible all of the time is always there. And in this bumper report out, because we've had 2 weeks worth, we've heard that through and through. We've heard, yep, this is really tough. There are things that we have to deal with that are really difficult. It's not easy, particularly when we're having so much patient demand. So many patients who need to go home, but it's really difficult to get them home. When we have all of these challenges, that we will still work harder, take on additional work, well done Ward 32, in order to make sure that we learn the lessons to how to do it better. When I listen to the presentations, I listen with a whole range of approaches. The one is, I hear the absolute enthusiasm and commitment. And I mean, it's infectious. One of the things that I really encourage people to come and do is come to report out, come to open house. You'll hear how enthusiastic the teams are. Give the team a challenge, they will go for it. And you've seen that from all 4 teams. But what I also listen for is, why does this matter? As in, if you sort of take yourself away from each of the details, the Kaizen bursts here and the measurements of steps there, what really matters from each of these? I'll tell you what I took away. From the first report out, our colleagues in respiratory, I took away that they really get that making sure that this patient is able to go home is important to that patient and to that patient's family. But it's also important to the next patient who needs to come in because they're waiting in ED in order to get a bed on the ward. And it's also important for all of the colleagues who are trying to make sure that we do the best that we can for the first patient who's going home, but then also for the patient who wants to come in. I then sat thinking, so what's really most important about our colleagues who've been looking at the FFAs? Because they're looking at the same elements. It's discharge. And they're dealing with patients who've got really complex needs. And Alex put his finger on this. It's difficult. And it's so difficult that no one steps forward to say, yep, I'll do this. But we know how to do it. The next step is to crack who's going to take control of that and who's going to say, I'll pull the team together. We'll make sure that we do the very best we can for this patient. Alex, I look forward to hearing what the team's going to come up with when the Kaizen event is completed. Patient safety is fundamental. It's why we're all here. Quality of care. And I sat listening to the team and I thought, you know, we used to be really good at incident reporting and then our incident reporting fell off. And that should have been a bigger warning to us than it was taken at the time. Because truly high-functioning organizations and truly high-functioning industries, and yes, I do put the airline industry and the nuclear industry in those areas, you know, they can't afford to make a mistake. We can't afford to make a mistake. But our incident reporting did fall off. And part of the reason for that was, yeah, it's a hassle to fill in a datex if it takes 8 minutes. And if I don't hear anything about it, why should I fill in an incident report? Because the feedback loop's not there. I just filled it in and I heard nothing about it. But this team really got, why does this matter? Make it easy. Make sure the feedback's there. Get as many incidents as you can. Get the huddles together so that the changes get made, and you really can make a difference. And that's why that team really got why this was so important. And when we spoke about our patients who've had strokes, and we spoke about discharge of patients who've had strokes and the information provided, what really struck me was we're willing to listen to what our patients are saying, we're willing to listen to what our patients' families are saying, and we're willing to be guided by what they're saying in order to make sure that we do this as best we can. To our team in Ward 16, thank you. That is one of the fundamental lessons that the NHS is still learning. I know that we've got some guests with us. You've heard a whole lot of new words, haven't you? Things like Kaizen and Kanban and Andon, and these are all new. And I'll be quite honest, a lot of us have had some difficulty with this. It's a whole lot of Japanese words, and it's from another industry and another time in some respects. But it's now become our language, which really struck me. And again, why does this matter? Is all of the teams were fluent in this. This is the language of improvement here in our organisation. And I'll come back to winter, because the thing that linked all of the 4 teams who've been doing all of this work were the following. There's a real sense of belief in our colleagues, in our staff, in our organisation, that we can do better, that we will do better. There's a real sense of trust us and we'll really make that difference. And we've seen that. Each of the team had innovation and each of the teams was able to implement those changes. And there's a real sense of, whether it's up there, you know, on the little pyramid, safest and kindest, And I remember the sense of cynicism that I did hear in this room when I spoke about this to some of my colleagues. But today, you heard safer and kinder for patients, for staff, and for the population whom we serve. Colleagues, thank you. That's what this is all about.
Thank you.
So, Gary, you can collect this certificate on behalf of the home team.
And we've said before, we couldn't do it without the home team. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you for standing in for Simon, and thank you all for staying with us with a double RPIW report out and Kaizen events as well. You can see we've now moved to providing 3-day opportunities as well as 5-day opportunities. So I'm going to let you start to enjoy hopefully the weekend. So safe journeys home, and we'll see you all again very soon.